You're not the black sheep because you're broken. You're the black sheep because you're the only one who sees the lie. You see the unspoken toxic pattern, the denial they're all comfortable living in, and that makes you a target. But what if that targeting is the strategic psychological function that is literally forging your INFJ superpower? If you've always been the family black sheep, here's what nobody tells you. That rejection isn't random bad luck or some cruel twist of fate. It's actually serving a strategic psychological function that most people miss. By the end of this video, you'll understand the 3 reasons why being the family outsider isn't a bug in your personality. It's a feature. And it's literally forging the mental architecture that makes you different from everyone else. Being misunderstood by your family isn't a punishment. It's preparation. Before we start, please hit the like button, comment, and subscribe so you won't miss any of our weekly deep dives into the world of personality types. And if you are looking to achieve a deeper understanding of yourself and your personality type, click the link in the comments to take our favorite free personality test. The isolation that builds mental independence. Here's the thing most people don't understand about INFJ development. When your family consistently rejects or misunderstands you, it forces you to develop your dominant function without any external interference. And that dominant function is introverted intuition. While your siblings and other family members are learning to rely on group validation and external approval, you're being forced to trust your internal compass. The pain of not fitting in becomes the catalyst for developing the pattern recognition abilities that make you so different. Think about it this way. INFJs make up only 1 to 3% of the population. That means, statistically, it's almost impossible for your family to understand how your mind works naturally. You're literally surrounded by people who process information in entirely different ways. Most families operate on extroverted thinking or feeling functions. They want quick decisions, clear explanations, and immediate emotional responses. But you need time to process. You see connections they miss. You feel things more deeply than they can even comprehend. So when you don't respond the way they expect, when you need space to think through complex ideas, when you see problems they're ignoring, you automatically become the odd one out, the one who's too sensitive, too complicated, too different. But here's what's actually happening behind the scenes. That early isolation is teaching you to process information differently from the extroverted majority. While they're getting their validation and sense of reality from the group, you're developing an independent relationship with truth. You start trusting your intuition because it's literally the only guidance system you have. When everyone else is telling you you're wrong, too much, or not enough, your inner knowing becomes your lifeline. This mental independence becomes your greatest asset in adulthood. You don't need a committee to make decisions. You don't need external validation to know what's true. You've been training for years to trust your own judgment, even when everyone around you disagrees. Let me give you a real-world example of how this plays out. You might notice that your family has this unspoken rule about not talking about dad's drinking problem. Everyone pretends it's normal. Everyone walks on eggshells. Everyone adjusts their behavior around it. But you see it clearly. You feel the tension. You understand how it's affecting everyone's mental health. And because you can't unsee it, you become the problem. You're the one making things uncomfortable by existing in your truth. Your family doesn't consciously decide to make you the black sheep, but your awareness of what's really happening threatens their comfortable denial. So they unconsciously push you to the margins. And in that marginalized position, something powerful happens. You develop the ability to see systems and patterns that people within the system can't. You become an expert at reading between the lines, at understanding what's really going on beneath the surface. That rejection from your family is actually forcing you to develop the exact mental skills that will make you invaluable later in life. The ability to think independently, to see what others miss, to trust your intuition over popular opinion. The isolation isn't breaking you, it's building you. The observer's advantage creates strategic thinking. Being pushed to the family periphery gives you something most people never develop: a unique vantage point to study human behavior without being emotionally invested in maintaining the illusion. While your family members are busy playing their roles in the family drama, you're sitting in the audience, taking notes. You become an expert at reading unspoken dynamics and power structures that everyone else is too close to see clearly. You notice how mom uses guilt to control dad's decisions. You see how your brother deflects responsibility by making jokes whenever things get serious. You understand how your sister manipulates conversations constantly to put herself at the center. This observational training develops into the ability to see patterns that others miss entirely. Not just in your family, but everywhere. You start recognizing the same dynamics playing out in friend groups, at work, and in romantic relationships. The emotional distance that makes you feel like an outsider actually allows you to analyze situations objectively, while others are emotionally reactive. When your family is in crisis mode, you're the one who can step back and see the bigger picture. Your family members who reject you are unknowingly providing you with case studies in human psychology. Every family gathering becomes a masterclass in understanding how people's unconscious patterns drive their behavior. You learn to read micro-expressions, to hear what people aren't saying, to understand the real motivations behind their actions. You develop what I call the glitch in human logic, thinking that makes INFJs so strategically powerful. Here's how this plays out in real time. Let's say your family is planning a vacation and everyone's getting into arguments about where to go. While they're all emotionally invested in their preferences and taking sides, you're seeing the fundamental dynamic at work. Dad wants to go to the beach because he's stressed about work and needs to decompress. Mom wants the mountains because she feels disconnected from nature in her daily life. Your sister wants to move to the city because she's feeling socially isolated and craves stimulation. Nobody's actually fighting about vacation destinations. They're fighting about unmet emotional needs they can't even articulate. But you see it clearly because you're not caught up in the emotional reactivity. This ability to see the forest while everyone else is focused on individual trees becomes your superpower. You understand systems thinking. You can predict how changes in one part of a system will affect other parts. Being misunderstood teaches you to understand others at a deeper level than they understand themselves. The rejection forces you to become a student of human nature in ways that people who fit in never need to develop. You start recognizing that most human conflict isn't about what people think it's about. It's about deeper psychological needs, unconscious fears, and unresolved trauma patterns. And because you can see these deeper layers, you can navigate complex social situations with strategic precision. The strategic advantage of seeing family dysfunction clearly while others live in denial is that you develop immunity to manipulation. You can't be gaslit because you trust your own perception. You can't be emotionally manipulated because you understand the game being played. This observer advantage doesn't just help you survive your family dynamics. It also enables you to thrive. It prepares you to excel in any environment where understanding human psychology is valuable, which is basically everywhere. The forge of unshakable authenticity. Here's where the black sheep experience creates something compelling. Constant family criticism forces you to build an internal validation system, since external validation was never consistently available. When you've spent years being told you're too much, too sensitive, too different, you eventually reach a breaking point. You stop seeking approval because you realize you're never going to get it on their terms. This creates what I call the Sigma mentality. External opinions start holding less power over your decisions because you've learned that people's judgments often say more about them than they do about you. The rejection teaches you early that being authentic matters more than being accepted. You'd rather be disliked for who you really are than loved for who you're pretending to be. Because you've tried pretending and it never worked anyway. You develop emotional resilience that serves you throughout life. When you've survived being the family scapegoat, criticism from strangers feels manageable. When you've learned to validate yourself, other people's approval becomes a nice to have rather than an essential for survival. Family black sheep status becomes training in handling criticism and staying true to your vision. Every time someone in your family told you that you were wrong for seeing what you saw or feeling what you felt, you had a choice. Abandon your truth or strengthen your conviction. Most INFJs choose to strengthen their conviction, not out of stubbornness, but out of necessity. Your perception of reality is literally your lifeline when you're surrounded by people who can't or won't see what you see. This authenticity becomes magnetic to the right people later in life. People who are also tired of surface-level connections and social pretending are drawn to your realness like moths to flame. The family that rejected you for being different prepared you to attract a chosen family that celebrates you for being exactly who you are. The strategic reason INFJs become black sheep isn't punishment from the universe. It's preparation. Your family rejection serves as a psychological boot camp that develops the exact mental skills that make you different from everyone else. The isolation builds mental independence. The observer position creates strategic thinking. The criticism forges unshakable authenticity. You're not broken. You're being built for something bigger. Subscribe for more insights into how your mind works as your most significant advantage. If you want to continue the journey to understanding yourself or an INFJ in your life, click either of the following videos, where we continue to unlock the secrets of the INFJ personality type.